There are parts of you that were never meant to stay hidden. What you call fear or lack of money is often the shadow asking to be seen. When the shadow is ignored, it controls. When it is understood, it transforms. A dialogue with your unconscious. If you're watching this video right now, it's not an accident. According to Carl Jung, there are no coincidences, only synchronicities. And the fact that you clicked on this video, that the algorithm brought you here at this exact moment in your financial life, means something profound. It means you've already sensed a pattern you can't quite name, but one you feel every time money enters your life. Let me ask you something directly. Have you ever felt like you don't deserve to be wealthy? Have you ever sabotaged an opportunity right before it could change your life? Have you ever charged less than your worth, worked harder than everyone else but earned half as much, or felt a deep, inexplicable discomfort when success comes too easily? If you're nodding right now, you're not broken. You're not cursed. And you're not unlucky. You have what Carl Jung called an emotional wound, specifically the wound of rejection. And this wound, formed in your childhood and buried deep in your unconscious, is controlling every financial decision you make today. Here's what most people don't understand. Your relationship with money is not about money. It's about what money represents in your unconscious mind. And if you carry the wound of rejection, money represents the ultimate risk, being seen, being judged, and being rejected all over again. So you play small. You hide. You sabotage. You undercharge. You overwork. You do everything unconsciously to ensure you never risk that rejection again, even if it means staying poor forever. Carl Jung believed that the human psyche is divided into two parts, the conscious ego and the unconscious shadow. The ego is who you think you are, your identity, your self-image, the story you tell yourself about yourself. But the shadow is who you actually are when no one is watching. The parts of yourself you've rejected, denied, and buried because they were too painful to accept. And here's the crucial part. The shadow doesn't disappear just because you ignore it. It operates in the background, controlling your behavior without your awareness. Jung called this the autonomy of the unconscious. The shadow has a life of its own, and it's running your financial life whether you know it or not. The wound of rejection is one of the 5 primary emotional wounds that form in childhood. It happens when you experience, repeatedly and painfully, the message that who you are is not acceptable, not good enough, not worthy of love, attention, or belonging. Maybe your parents were critical. Maybe you were bullied. Maybe you were compared unfavorably to siblings or peers. Maybe you were excluded from social groups because of your class, your appearance, your intelligence, or simply for being yourself. Whatever the specific experience, the message was the same. You are rejected for being who you are. And when a child receives this message repeatedly, they make a decision, an unconscious decision that will shape the rest of their life. They decide that if I am rejected for being myself, then I must hide myself to survive. I must become smaller, quieter, less visible. I must never risk standing out because standing out means being rejected again. This decision is what Jung called a complex, an emotionally charged pattern of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that operates autonomously in the unconscious. The rejection complex becomes a lens through which you see everything, including money. And here's where it gets critical. Money makes you visible. Think about it. When you have money, people notice. When you charge what you're worth, you're making a statement about your value. When you pursue success, you're stepping into the spotlight. When you celebrate your wins, you're inviting attention. And for someone with the rejection wound, attention equals danger. Visibility equals vulnerability. Success equals the risk of being seen as too much and therefore rejected. So what does your unconscious do? Protects you, keeps you safe. It ensures you never risk that rejection again by making sure you never become too successful, too wealthy, too visible. This is not self-sabotage in the conventional sense. This is your shadow protecting you from what it perceives as a mortal threat. Your unconscious is not trying to punish you, it's trying to save you. But here's the tragedy. In trying to save you from rejection, it keeps you poor. Let me show you exactly what this looks like through the story of Jennifer Martinez, a 34-year-old freelance graphic designer from Austin, Texas. When Jennifer came to me 2 years ago, she was desperate and confused. She had been freelancing for 8 years, had an impressive portfolio, glowing testimonials from major clients, and consistent demand for her work. But she was barely surviving financially, earning around $42,000 a year when designers with her experience and skill level were easily making $85,000 or more. In our first session, Jennifer told me she didn't understand what was wrong. She worked constantly, sometimes 70 or 80 hours a week. She was good at what she did. Clients loved her, but she could never seem to charge enough to actually get ahead. When I asked her what she charged per project, she hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. Then she admitted that her last logo design project, which had taken her about 40 hours of work, she charged $1,500 for. The industry standard for that type of comprehensive branding work? Between $5,000 and $8,000. I asked her why she charged so little. Her answer was immediate and telling. But if I charge that much, they'll say no. They'll think I'm too expensive. They'll think I'm arrogant for asking that much. They'll go to someone else. I could hear the fear in her voice, but it wasn't just fear of losing a client. It was something much deeper. So I asked her a different question. When was the first time in your life you felt like you weren't good enough? Jennifer went quiet, her eyes filled with tears. And then she started talking about her childhood. Her parents divorced when she was 7 years old. It was a bitter, ugly divorce, and Jennifer somehow became the scapegoat for all of her father's disappointments and rage. In a moment of cruelty that Jennifer never forgot, her father told her, "You're not the daughter I wanted. You're not good enough. If you were different, prettier, smarter, more like your mother, maybe I would have stayed. Maybe if you were better, I wouldn't have had to leave." 7-year-old Jennifer internalized a devastating belief in that moment. I am fundamentally inadequate. Who I am is not acceptable. I am worthy of rejection. And that belief became her shadow. It didn't sit in her conscious awareness. She didn't walk around every day thinking I'm not good enough. But it operated in the background of every decision she made for the next 27 years, especially every decision about money. When Jennifer started her design business in her mid-20s, she didn't consciously think I should charge less because I'm not good enough. She just felt an overwhelming anxiety every time she wrote a proposal with her full market rate. Her heart would race. Her hands would shake. She would imagine the potential client reading her proposal and thinking, "Who does she think she is? She's not worth that." And the fear of that rejection, the fear of someone confirming what she already believed about herself deep down, was unbearable. So she would lower the number, and then lower it again, and then lower it one more time until it felt safe, until she was confident they wouldn't reject her. But here's what Jung would say about this pattern. Jennifer wasn't pricing her design services. She was pricing her worth as a human being. And because she believed unconsciously that she wasn't worthy of acceptance, that her true self was fundamentally inadequate, she couldn't charge rates that implied she was valuable. The rejection wound made her choose poverty over the risk of experiencing rejection. Over the weeks we worked together, I had Jennifer do an exercise. I asked her to write a proposal with her full market rate, $6,000 for a project she would normally charge $2,000 for. I didn't ask her to send it, just to write it and sit with the feelings that came up. She tried 3 times, and each time she had a full panic attack. The fear was that visceral, that physical. Her body was literally responding to the act of claiming her value as if it were a threat to her survival. We spent more time exploring this. I had Jennifer journal on the question, what would it mean about me if a client rejected my proposal at my full rate? Her answers revealed everything. It would mean I'm not as good as I thought I was. It would prove my father was right, that I'm not good enough. It would mean I don't deserve success. It would confirm that I'm fundamentally inadequate. It would mean that who I really am, when people see me clearly, is someone worthy of rejection. This is the rejection wound speaking. A simple business transaction, a proposal for design services, had become in Jennifer's unconscious mind a referendum on her fundamental worth as a human being. And when the stakes are that high, when saying yes to your value feels like risking the confirmation of your deepest fear about yourself, you'll do anything to avoid that risk, including charging half of what you're worth and working yourself into exhaustion. The breakthrough came when Jennifer started to separate her pricing from her identity. Through shadow work, through bringing this unconscious pattern into consciousness, she began to understand that a client rejecting her rate was not the universe confirming she was worthless. It was simply a business decision made by another human being operating within their own budget constraints, their own fears, their own shadows. It had nothing to do with whether she was fundamentally acceptable as a person. She started raising her rates gradually. First to $3,000 for projects she had been charging $1,500 for. Then to $4,500. Then to $6,000. And yes, she lost 3 clients in the process. When those rejections came, the wound screamed at her, "See, I told you, you're not good enough. This is what happens when you ask for too much." But something important happened. New clients came. Clients who valued her work and paid her full rate without hesitation, without making her feel like she had to justify her worth. And slowly, over many months of practice and shadow work, Jennifer began to internalize a new belief. My value is not determined by whether someone says yes or no to my rate. My value is inherent. I am worthy of being paid well not because I've proven myself through exhausting amounts of work, but simply because I am skilled and my work creates value. The rejection I experienced as a child was about my father's wounds, not about my fundamental inadequacy. 18 months after we started working together, Jennifer's annual income had more than doubled. She was earning $95,000 a year. But more importantly than the money, she had integrated her shadow. She could look at the rejection wound, acknowledge it, understand where it came from, and say, I see you, I understand why you're here, you were trying to protect me. But you don't get to run my life anymore. That's the power of shadow work. Now let me take you deeper into Jung's psychology to help you understand why this wound has such power over money specifically. Jung believed that the unconscious operates through symbols. Money is not just paper or numbers in a bank account. It's a symbol, and what it symbolizes depends entirely on what you learned in childhood. For someone with the rejection wound, money symbolizes 3 interconnected things. First, money symbolizes visibility. Money makes you visible. The more you have, the more people notice. Your success becomes measurable, observable, undeniable. You stand out, and standing out to the rejection wound feels like painting a target on your back. It feels like inviting the very scrutiny that will lead to the rejection you fear most. So your shadow keeps you poor not to punish you, but to keep you safe, to keep you hidden, to protect you from the vulnerability of being truly seen. Second, money is a symbol of your worth. When you charge for your services, when you negotiate a salary, when you set your rates, you are making a statement about your value. This is what I'm worth. But if you carry the rejection wound, if you believe unconsciously that who you are is fundamentally inadequate, then you simply cannot charge rates or negotiate salaries that imply you are valuable. It would contradict your core belief about yourself. So you align your prices with your unconscious belief, and that belief says I'm not enough. Third, money becomes a proxy for acceptance and belonging. Many people with the rejection wound unconsciously believe that if I'm wealthy, people will finally accept me. If I'm successful, I'll finally belong. But they also believe the opposite. If I'm too wealthy, I'll be rejected. If I'm too successful, I'll be excluded from my tribe, my family, my community. I'll become one of them, the rich, the elite, the people who don't belong to my world anymore. So they're caught in an impossible bind. They want money because they think it will bring acceptance, but they fear money because they think it will cause rejection. This internal conflict keeps them financially paralyzed, stuck in the middle, never poor enough to be rejected for poverty, never rich enough to risk being rejected for wealth. Jung called this the tension of opposites. And until you integrate the shadow, until you realize that your worth and your belonging are not determined by your wealth, this tension will keep you stuck. The only way through is to bring the unconscious into consciousness, to see the wound clearly, to understand where it came from, to recognize how it's been protecting you, and then to consciously choose a new relationship with it. Let me give you 3 practical shadow work exercises you can do right now to begin this process. First, get a journal and answer these questions with absolute honesty. When was the first time in your life you felt deeply rejected for being yourself? How old were you? Who rejected you? What message did you receive about your worth? What did you decide about yourself in that moment? What belief did you form? And most importantly, how does this belief show up in your financial life today? Do you underprice like Jennifer? Do you hide your success? Do you sabotage opportunities right before they could change your life? Right without editing yourself. Let the shadow speak. You're not looking for right answers, you're looking for true answers. Second, try this visualization exercise. Sit quietly, close your eyes, and imagine you just had a huge financial success. Maybe you got a promotion with a significant raise. Maybe you closed a big deal. Maybe your business just hit a major milestone. Now imagine posting about it on social media. Imagine telling your family. Imagine people at work knowing. Imagine being visible for your success. Notice what happens in your body. Does your chest tighten? Does your stomach clench? Do you feel anxiety or dread? If you do, that's the rejection wound. That's your shadow saying visibility is dangerous. Success will lead to rejection. Stay with that feeling. Don't run from it. Breathe into it. And ask it, what are you trying to protect me from? Listen for the answer. It might come as words, images, or memories. Write down whatever arises. Third, practice reclaiming your worth through action. Every week, do one thing that challenges the rejection wound. Raise your rates by 10% for one client. Share one financial win publicly without minimizing it or apologizing for it. Say no to one request you would normally say yes to out of fear of rejection. Spend money on something that brings you joy but feels too indulgent. The point is not to force yourself into things that terrify you. The point is to expose yourself gradually to the situations that trigger the wound and discover that you can survive them. Each time you do something the rejection wound says is dangerous and you survive it, you weaken its power. You integrate the shadow. You reclaim your worth. Here's what you need to understand. The rejection wound is not your fault. You didn't choose it. You didn't create it. It was installed in your unconscious by experiences beyond your control when you were too young to process them differently. But the rejection wound is your responsibility to heal. Because as long as it operates in your shadow, as long as it remains unconscious, it will control your financial life. It will keep you undercharging, overworking, hiding, sabotaging, and playing small. Not because you're weak or broken, but because that's what the shadow does. It protects you using strategies that once kept you safe but now keep you stuck. The only way out is through shadow work, through bringing the unconscious into consciousness, through seeing the wound, understanding it, having compassion for it, and then consciously choosing to integrate it. This is not easy work. It requires honesty, vulnerability, and the willingness to sit with uncomfortable feelings and memories. It requires changing patterns that have been running your life for decades. But it's possible. Jennifer did it. Thousands of people have done it. And you can too. If this video resonated with you, if you recognize yourself in Jennifer's story, you're not alone. The rejection wound is one of the most common wounds I see. Millions of people are controlled by it without knowing it. But now you know. Now you see it. And that awareness is the first step toward freedom. Hit the like button to help this video reach others who need it. Leave a comment telling me if you recognize this pattern in your own life. And subscribe because the rejection wound is only one of 5 emotional wounds that control your money. In the next episode, we go deep into the abandonment wound, the wound that makes you hoard money compulsively and panic when your bank account drops. Until then, be kind to yourself. The rejection wound wasn't your choice, but healing it is your power.
If this resonated with you, subscribe to the Shadow Dialogue and hit that like button. Your transformation starts with one click. See you in the next video.